In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to join an open piece of amigurumi to a closed piece. And joining means the process of sewing essentially these pieces together so that you have one nice, completely contained amigurumi. And then the difference between an open and a closed piece is whether or not basically the inside of the piece is accessible to the outside. So this yellow piece I have represents a beak, and that's why it's got still an opening over here, because we're going to use that to sew onto this closed piece. And this closed piece represents a penguin body. So as you can see, there are no openings, all the stuffing is contained on the inside. So once you've fastened off both the closed piece and the open piece, you'll want to thread the yarn tail of the open piece into a tapestry needle. And you want to use a tapestry needle because the eye is quite big, which means it's going to be way easier for you to get your yarn through. And also, this tip is not sharp, so I mean, I wouldn't recommend poking yourself excessively with it, but it won't hurt. So first things first, let's say this pattern says that you want to attach the beak starting between rounds 7 and 8. You gotta find where rounds 7 and 8 are. So remember, every round is one concentric circle. So what I like to do is just pick a point and then keep following the piece along that point. So we have round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the pattern said in between round 7 and 8, which would mean it's actually over here. This is where we want to start with attaching our beak. So I'm just going to position it like so. The top of the beak lines up with that point. And then, as you can see over here, my yarn tail is coming out of this point of the beak. I'm going to therefore stick it into the closed piece and then around one of the stitches, and my goal is to bring it back up through this closed piece to a point that is in line with the next stitch of the yellow open piece. So I'm going to put it over here, pull it through, pull it tight, then pull it up under the loops of the V of the open piece, then put the needle back into the hole in the closed piece where it just came from, which is over here, and then again around a stitch, and you want it to come out at a point that lines up nicely with the next V of the open piece. So here again, and we're just going to keep on repeating that. So again, up through the loops of the V of the open piece, and then back down into the exact same spot on the closed piece, and then one stitch over on the closed piece so that it lines up nicely with the next stitch of the open piece. So I'm going to go through the rest of it so you can see what a completed joined amigurumi piece looks like. Okay, so here is a completely joined piece. As you can see, the seam is really difficult to see, which is what you're going for. You want it to look invisibly stitched onto the other piece. And then again, to weave in the yarn tails is how you would normally whenever you're weaving in the yarn tails of a closed piece. The first, or I guess the point where you want to stick your needle into in this case, is wherever the needle just came out of when you were putting it through the V in the open piece. So in this case, I could put it up through this stitch, so I'm going to come back down through the same stitch, and then I'm just going to pick a point somewhere on the other side of my piece, wherever my needle can make it, and then pull the yarn through and pull it tight, but not so tight that it distorts the actual stuffed toy. And then since I've got some extra yarn here, I like to just stick the needle through the same point and then pick another point on some other direction across from it. Pull it through and then watch how I pull it through just enough so that this yarn disappears into the piece, but not so much more, because in that case I'd just be, instead of having the yarn nicely go this way and that way, if you pull too much, it just makes the yarn go this way, which defeats the point of trying to tangle the yarn up essentially in the stuffing inside the amigurumi. And there you have it.